the topic that I wanted to talk about today, if you saw me actually tweeted the topic ahead of time, is this question, is humanity worth serving? Right? I mentioned that we're a service organization. Obviously, I'm a service-oriented person. I think a lot of you probably are. And I think if you were sort of putting this in philosophical terms, what you would say is, is humanity worth saving, right? Like, are we, biases aside, are we as a phenomenon on this planet a good thing? Like, are we an improvement upon nature? Are we worth it? Are we worth the effort? But of course, like, let's not pretend that any individual one of us is in the position to save humanity, right? That's a philosophical way of putting it. But realistically, we all have sort of our one life to give, and we all sort of have to make this decision of, like, how much of my energy and effort is going to be spent on sort of self-indulgence and just enjoying all of this, which is a really important thing to do sometimes, but how much of that is going to be given to sort of giving back to some sort of greater sense of humanity or commitment to the system of nature itself, right? Like, for me, it's not just enough to make something that's interesting or something that's new or something that is going to make money. It also has to be, like, big and important, right? It has to make a difference, because everything else, like, just nothing else matters at the end of the day. And so I found myself really kind of asking this question of, like, is humanity worth serving? Are the people on the internet really the people that I want to sort of give my life to making their lives better? Like, I don't know. I was really depressed about it for a while. I have to be honest. These are not easy questions. And I ended up watching this video, and that's the video that I want to share with you all today. And I was watching it just to cheer me up, and then it didn't cheer me up, but then at the end, it totally did cheer me up, and it was like, it was unexpected, is what I'm trying to say. And it's something that I think is very near and dear to the internet's heart, so I'm going to play the intro for you. Unfortunately, it's a 90-minute documentary, so I can't play the whole thing for you, but what I've done is I've sort of taken some segments that I think are sort of interesting to the extended metaphor we're trying to build here, and added to it. And we're running off of two computers because everything is complicated today.
Right under our noses, in our homes, cities and towns, on our sofas and laps, a quiet invasion has been taking place. The cat is now officially the most popular pet in the Western world. In Britain alone, it's reckoned there are 12 million cats. A vast, softly purring army, which it seems we are utterly powerless to resist. And yet, for thousands of years, no creature has divided us quite like this one. Are they regal, or simply cold and remote? Devoted pets, or as irrepressibly wild as their big cousins? How am I to capture the essence of this puzzling creature, one that so many adore, and so many others find deeply unsettling? To do that, I'm turning cat detective. Unraveling this feline enigma everywhere, from the magical tombs of ancient Egypt.
How brilliant, it's all done by reflection.
To a bizarre medieval cat festival in Belgium. From the cats who formed a Chicago rock band, to a cat in fancy dress.
Must be so strange being slightly deaf inside a pink rabbit hat.
I'll be tracking down the amazing big cats too, coming face to face with the lord of the Mayan jungle.
All the strength and majesty of these creatures, you can't believe how beautiful they are.
And armed to rasping tongue with the world's fastest cat.
I'm trying to talk normally with my arm being licked by a cheetah.
All to discover exactly why it is that cats divide us so much, and how one of nature's most efficient serial killers ended up as our favorite fireside companion. This is my journey into the world of the cat.
Yeah, when I get depressed, I like to watch cat videos. I don't know about all of you. I mean, it's pretty much the best thing the internet has to offer that isn't like violent or pornographic, so this is what I could show you from the internet, cat videos. It seems trivial. Who loves cats? How many cat lovers we have here? Really? Just a couple? Who hates cats? All right, nobody hates cats. Everyone else is just, you're allergic to cats. It's true, I've seen it. Everyone else is sort of slightly suspicious of cats. The internet as a whole loves cats, loves cats like crazy. I love cats too. I've grown up with cats always. Not really a big dog fan, huge cat fan, have cats now. None of this is interesting. But what is interesting is that cats, I think that cats sort of, more than anything I can think of, they represent this dichotomy of nature. Because cats are adorable, we love them, they're full of cuddles and joy, and they're also like horrific animals, right? Like in nature, they're terrible, right? Like it's not just that they're predators, right? Like, things gotta eat other things, that's the way of nature, but they torture their prey, right? They sit there and torture other animals just as if for fun. And it's just horrifying. It's just one of these horrifying things about nature that we just sort of, they don't even talk about that in 90 minutes of documentary, right? They sort of gloss over the fact that cats are efficient serial killers. They don't mention the fact that cats decimate bird populations in neighborhoods. And they don't mention the fact that they're just existentially horrifying animals. And so that, to me, raises the question, is nature evil? And it sounds like a stupid question. I have been asked this question, right? Because I get up and I talk about good and evil and ethics, and this is this question, is nature evil? And it's like, nature is not evil. It's horrifying, but evil implies intent. It implies knowledge. Nature is blind and stupid and clumsy, and the things that it does that are so horrifying, it doesn't do them to be evil. It's just the way that nature is, right? We, humankind, are the part of nature that has a concept of evil, right? Only we are capable of evil because only we have any idea that such a thing as evil exists. Only we can look at a cat and say, that's actually kind of screwed up. But we are, we have our issues as well.
Notice something which has never changed. It's women, not men, who are least able to resist the lure of the cat. Hard to believe that a few hundred years ago, many of these women, including me, might have been burned at the stake, along with their cats. Because the terrible truth is, despite thousands of years of our deepest devotion to cats, there's a very dark side to our feline obsession. Thankfully, we don't torture witches and their cats anymore. But once every 3 years in Belgium, people gather to remember a time when we did. On a warm afternoon in the town of Ypres, their world-famous cat parade is now in full swing. It's all a bit surreal, yet so far at least, it seems pretty harmless. I can't resist joining in the fun. But courtesy of the town jester, the festival culminates in a rather shocking ritual. In Ypres 500 years ago, 9 lives wouldn't have been enough for even the sturdiest of cats. Europe had gone witch mad, and here in Belgium, they took to slinging live witches' cats off the tops of high buildings. In fact, it wasn't until 1817 that this barbaric ritual was stopped. It's an unlikely thing to commemorate, but thankfully today, the cats here are merely toys.
It's so strange because even though this is a sort of carnival day and everybody's having such fun and they're only toy cats, a knife of fear and pain goes through me. Just to think a short time ago they were throwing real live cats out of here simply because of the superstition that cats contained evil spirits.
And it wasn't just the Belgians. In the Middle Ages, it was believed that Satan often took the form of a cat. And all over Europe, they were tortured and ritually killed in their thousands, often also burning alive the poor innocent women who owned them.
So yeah, we're the only ones who are capable of evil in nature. And I think that there's myriad examples of that. Here's an obvious one. But the thing is, for all of our horror, like, we can also do other things, though, that nature can't do, right? Like, we are a creative beast in a way that no other beast on this planet is. And that, surely seems to be worth something. So we're going to jump over now to Japan and see where some of Japanese creativity has been spent.
Oh, look, Mary, Hello Kitty.
Everybody knows Hello Kitty, and she's been chosen as the new poster girl for Visit Japan campaign.
Oh, look, little kitty like this, with its own little kitty bag.
And Maneki Kitty?
Maneki Kitty, with the good luck.
Yes, giving you the good luck.
Fishy Kitty.
Oh.
Strange, though.
Beanbag? Beanbags?
Beanbag.
Yes.
Oh, look, in a kimono kitty. Gosh, it's everywhere, isn't it? And look at all these up here. Hello Kitty, everything. Just toys and little purses, exercise books, pencils, pots, things, stuff, earrings, dangly bits.
For children of all ages.
The strange thing is, something's going wrong with me because I really want this stuff now. I've actually got I've got quite a lot of thousands of...
For the very best in feline haute couture, the Stella McCartney to Tokyo's finest cats, look no further than Takako Iwasa. May we see some of your beautiful clothes on a cat? Whoa! This handsome, rather long-suffering Scottish foldier is Kotaro, clothes hanger for all Takako's boy cat costumes.
Yay.
Oh, you look fine, darling. You look quite unlike a cat. He's taken his hat off. Not like Tom Kitten, he doesn't have to take his clothes off.
One of the most popular outfits is a frog.
Good cat. Oh, darling, good cat. God, he's turning into a mouse now. I wonder what this can do to a cat. Frog.
Mouse cat.
Oh, you look beautiful. We must never laugh at them, but look how fine he looks. Takako, where do you get your inspiration from now for making, for instance, I see some extraordinary things. I see little cows' heads here and kind of frogs.
わからないんですけど、この右方向の上の宇宙からインスピレーションがやってくるんですよ。
She's not sure, but she received something on the right side of her brain, and it seems to come from outer space.
Yeah, we're not the only animals that spend our lives making just trivial crap to present to each other, but we are the only ones who claim to get the ideas for it from outer space. I think of this as sort of exemplary of our folly as artists, right? Like, I think of us as a group as sort of artists and engineers. You know, we have this sort of creative part to us, and then we have this sort of problem-solving part to us. And I find that so often our creativity is really just kind of spent in the pursuit of, well, let's just call it money, right? Like, at the end of the day, right? Like, you look at that big pile of Hello Kitty, and it's just like, look at all that money, right? You know how much money Sanrio pulls in a year? Like, that's a lot of yen, right? But then at the same time, it's kind of like, what trivial crap, right? And I mean, I like Hello Kitty. It's not the worst stuff in the world, but like, I just feel like so much of what we as a species work on, so much of what we as app makers work on, is just this kind of trivial crap. It's just something that we imagine that somebody might spend some money on, and that seems to be its own justification. But then, you know, there's us as engineers, us as problem solvers, us as masters of nature, and here, I think we have run into some problems as well.
By playing mix and match with genetics, we're designing ever more exotic shapes and sizes. But how far are we prepared to go? So the first Munchkin, as far as you know, was a natural development in the cat. It was just a cat which happened to have short legs, is that right?
That's correct.
It's a naturally occurring spontaneous mutation. Yeah. The gene that is responsible for the dwarfism shortens only the long bones in the leg. It would be like from your elbow on down.
Now, this is a strange-looking little creature, isn't it? He is different looking from a cat, isn't he?
He is a Sphinx hybrid, bred to a munchkin, so he has no hair and very short legs.
I mean, this is really one of the strangest little beasts I think I've ever held on my lap. But, of course, this cat he's not even got any whiskers.
No.
So this little person obviously goes about his life in a quite different way.
I'm starting to see why Terry's called the Munchkin Queen. It seems there's no combination too strange for her to try.
Now, Terry, a lot of people would say, but cats are so beautiful in their original cat shape. Why would you want to make them have short legs?
Well, I am a neophile, which means that I like things that are very different and non-traditional. I just think that they're just adorable. They're comical. They come in all different colors, short hair, long hair. And just from the moment that I saw one, I just had to have it.
But this mutation doesn't bring about any kind of illness, does it?
No, they don't have any limitations other than perhaps the distance that they can jump. Now, I'm a short woman. I can't jump as far as a tall woman. But we jump, nonetheless.
Is it right? Do you think you're playing God?
If I felt that I was doing something wrong, I would not do it.
No.
I think that as long as the cats are healthy and happy, there might be a little something for everybody.
I do worry that we're taking things too far. If this is the Dachshund cat, what on earth comes next? A Chihuahua cat? A Great Dane cat? Is nature's work so unsatisfactory that we must constantly meddle with it?
This is Romy.
Hi, Romy.
And
You're
Romy's
beautiful.
a Himalayan. So we're going to do Romy today in a lion clip. And he's going to be such a handsome man when he is all done. We won't even know what to do with him.
She's just starting to speak in cat language. Gosh, I wonder if I had such a beautiful cat, you know, Divinity, I wouldn't have a clipping on this. Would you? I think that coat looks absolutely sublime.
Personally, if it was my cat, I would leave him like this. But some people, they're highly, highly allergic to their cats, and that's the only way they can tolerate living with them.
Maybe they shouldn't have cats if they can't cope with them.
Oh, man.
If Romy could speak, I'm sure he wouldn't be begging to have his handsome coat shorn off.
So there's your little lion tail coming out, yeah?
Look at that tail, darling.
That's the cut.
Oh, my goodness, stop crying.
He's so handsome, isn't
Yes,
he?
he's so handsome.
No. So when they're all done, they get a little grooming spray to make them smell wonderful and fresh. And the boys get a little bow tie, and the girls get a little bow. And since Romy's the little man, we're just going to put this right on him.
At least hair can grow back. Unfortunately, some people take much more radical steps to alter their cats.
You know, some people get their cats declawed. You don't believe in that, do you? It's illegal in England.
It's
I know they do
they're
it
trying
quite
to make it illegal here. We actually, for a lot of our clients, put on soft paws. Do you know what that is?
No.
They come in fashion colors. So this would just slip on like that, and you glue it on. And
You glue it on?
Just a drop of glue in the bottom. Then it doesn't.
It doesn't scratch.
Right.
Do you think we've gone mad?
Do you think we've gone mad? I don't know. I think that both of these women, we're supposed to look at them horrified, right? One of them is just playing genetic mix and match with cats. The other one is shaving them to look like lions. And there's so much more to this clip, right? It's just on and on. But I feel a real kind of sympathetic kinship with them, right? Like when the breeder says that she's a neophile, you know, she likes things that are new. She doesn't think that she's doing anything wrong. It doesn't hurt the cats. If she thought she was doing something wrong, she would stop. I hear the words that we say. I see the things that we do, right? We always have to meddle with things. We always have to dick around with things. And, based mostly on just kind of what we want to do, not really based on there really being any need for that, right? Like, nobody that we've seen on the artist side or on the engineering side, nobody has talked about any kind of need or problem that's being solved, right? Everything is just trying to get nature to conform to your whim, right? I mean, there's a couple of things like the claws, the scratching. This is an issue, but mostly it just seems to be whim. It's just we want it this way, we want it that way. We want the tulip to be blue, we want the carrot to be orange. There's one more video that I want to show you, though. One more part of this, actually, and really this is the meat of it. Because this next clip is really, I think it's really powerful, personally. Like, it really affected me a lot when I watched it, and it haunted me. Like, I couldn't get it out of my head, and it just really, well, I'll show it to you and we'll talk about it.
So what do cats do for us? Well, we now know that cats do have an extraordinary power to help those in need. And all they have to be is themselves. I'm back in England at Manchester's Seashell Trust School for children with severe disabilities.
There you go. You hold him.
Most of the time, these children struggle to communicate with the world around them. But when a cat enters the room, they blossom.
This is the sweetest little cat because it's just sitting here very, very gently. Here we are, Gabrielle. Yes, you're lovely. Yes, you're lovely.
Mio is a pat cat. That's Pets as Therapy. In Britain, there are now over 100 therapy cats like Mio, and the number's growing all the time.
Isn't that a sweet, sweet cat? And the cat is very, very gentle, very peaceful, this rag doll. He's obviously used to it. And you can feel lovely thrumming purr of this creature through here. Yes, he's purring, yes, he's purring.
There you go, Jamie. You got the cat? And you can see the enjoyment. The faces light up when they have the animals in. He tends to snuggle in. It's amazing. Most of the animals just know that they're dealing with children that have got special needs, and they adapt to the situation really nicely. And also, there's some children that won't communicate with people so well and will talk to a cat because they're non-judgmental.
And also for people who don't want to be touched, it's nice for them to touch something as soft and comforting as a cat.
Yes, and to be sat on. I always feel thrilled when a cat comes and sits on my lap.
How about that?
It's deeply moving to see how the warmth and softness of a cat can stir such pleasure in these children.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
She's busy watching the good boy.
Good girl, good cat. Yeah. Did that make sense? No, I didn't say it right. Did it?
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Surely anyone who's ever stroked a purring cat can understand this. Feline company can lower blood pressure, improve your mood, and bring companionship to the lonely and the sick.
When I see those kids, it makes me angry. Like, it makes me want to believe in God just so I can be mad at him about it. Like, you can't call nature evil, but you can't really call nature good either. You know, it's the best it ever is just sort of coincidentally pleasant. We are the only part of nature that knows evil, and because of that, we are the only part of nature that is capable of good. We are the only part of nature that has good in us. We are how nature makes good. of all the things that we can do, I think that this is the one thing that we as a species are worth serving for. Is this our ability to make good on nature, this our ability to turn around and to help each other where nature offers no help. And I think that the question for us to ask ourselves as creative people, as makers, as artists, as engineers, is not whether humanity is worth serving, but whether we're working on is worth what we inherited as humans. That's all I have to say today. What do you all think? Yeah.
I think that the part about humans which are meddling with nature can be seen from many point of views. Because, okay, maybe a cat with short legs is not that necessary, but what about what we've done forever to make plants more productive, to be food people pretty much? This happened for millennia, way before OGM ever was taken as something possible. And then there is also something which is maybe in the middle, because we've done the same thing with, for example, cows and sheep. We took animals which was more savage, more aggressive, and over time we just selected them to be more stupid and more fat. So yeah, there's the whole spectrum from the definitely useful and probably no plants can probably get bad feelings of what we've done to them, to some useless cats and what we've done to pretty much cat. That's probably a very complicated thing you can see from many point of views, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want you to think that I think that us meddling with nature is inherently wrong. It's what we do, right? And I mean, we're part of nature too, right? This is something that always drives me nuts with this you know, like there's humanity and then there's nature. It's like, no, there's just nature. That's all there is, and we're part of that. You know, we are the part of humanity that can refactor nature around us, right? Like I heard the other day, somebody said, we are the only species on this planet that went from something that is eaten to something that hunts, right? We went from prey to predator. Like, that's not something that happens. That's not how evolution or nature works. We're weird in that way. And I think that there are a lot of things, like, I think that the example with agriculture is a really good one, because you're right that this is something that nobody thinks that making plants become something that are useful to us is a bad idea. Nobody thinks we should go back 400 years ago and, you know, prevent that from happening. I think we're all pretty happy with it. But it's interesting because now with technology, you have this new kind of meddling, and then there's sort of these two sides where one says, you know, okay, fine, crossbreeding plants was okay, but recombinant genetics is not okay, right? Roundup Ready is going too far. Right, this kind of a thing. And I think that where we tend to find ourselves is we tend to find ourselves taking one of two sides, which is the, okay, screw technology, everything should go back to the way it was kind of conservative side, and the you guys are crazy, everything new is good, bring the future faster side, which I think most of us tend to fall on. What we don't tend to have a lot of is the, well, you know what, it's complicated. Because these are the tools that are at our disposal, and we really need to decide as a society, like, what is and is not okay and why. And we don't get that. We get a lot of extremism. I mean, look at the stuff going on with vaccines in California right now, for God's sake. Like, mind-blowing. Are you all familiar with this? Like measles, which was officially eradicated in the year 2000, there's an epidemic in California right now because all these crazy rich people. What's that? It partially is, but then it's only partially, right? Like there's a couple of different groups that are not vaccinating their kids, but a lot of it is just sort of this kind of modern anti-scientific liberal conservatism, I guess, because the group refers to themselves as liberal, but then when you say, for example, that the medical establishment is, is something that's evil, that sounds more conservative to me. I don't know. But artificial intelligence is another example of this, right? You're interested in that. You want to talk about that? Like, who here thinks that artificial intelligence is a good goal that we should pursue? I mean, maybe even our purpose for being here as a species. And, you know, who here thinks that artificial intelligence is the thing that's going to destroy us as a species? Pretty much all the same people, right? Yeah, because we're all, like, we all understand this, right? Like, we all understand that these things are, like, amazing and also dangerous. I don't know. I mean, there's so many places to go from here, right? Because then there's again, it comes down to what you should be working on. Yeah.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah, of course.
What is like the underlying wish that you have? Because this is coming from somewhere. and do you know what that is? Can you tell us?
Like, from a personal level, my underlying wish, I want to bring people together and help them understand each other. I think that's something that I am capable of, and that is something that is going to make things better. I think that when people are separated and don't understand each other, then bad things happen, and when they do, then good things happen. I think that we as a species, in the big picture, have lots ahead of us, right? There are so many places that we could go, right? People, scientists and philosophers, talk about this kind of 21st century bottleneck, this idea that we're in a really vital time right now, and if we can manage to survive this as a species, it's going to just be insane for the next several centuries. But it's a really big if, right? Like, this for me is like, it's like a religious belief. Is this belief, this idea that there's a cutoff line and we're like this close to missing it, to hitting it? Like, I'm not sure. It just feels very vital for me. I think that equality is the thing that holds us back more than anything else. Because I think that every other solution that we could come up with, like, for example, let's talk singularity. We make a big computer, we upload all of our brains into it, and that becomes the new humanity, right? Except that the way that things are now, you would basically have a very small number of very rich people who would be uploaded into this computer, and everybody else would be left to drown. And so then they would probably spend their last breath trying to find those computers and destroy them. Right? This is what I mean when I say that I don't think that we can move to the next level until we're all equal.
So isn't it a culture thing? Because if you look at Italy, Spain, they are used to take care of the elders, and in the Netherlands we put them in big houses together. We never visit them. No, not everybody, but some of them.
I mean, someone else's vision of the sort of the story of us, right, what we're doing here, is the story of increasing complexity. And that complexity finds itself a lot in culture, right? Because culture is basically sort of the shared knowledge that we're able to inherit just by being born into a certain culture. This is why our lives are so great today. Technology a little bit, but mostly it's just knowledge. It's just knowledge that we didn't have to relearn every time upon being born, like animals, do for most things. But I don't think see, the problem with, say, this is what we do as humans. We say, look, here's the problem, it's these people over here, or this vague notion, or this thing that we can't do anything about. And all that may be true, but realistically, so what? Right? Like, if the problem is not everyone in this room, but all the people out there, well, then just saying that that's true and then crossing our arms and feeling very self-satisfied is not accomplishing anything. We might as well go out and join them and stop holding ourselves above everyone else. I think that actually getting off your ass and doing something as an individual, small changes repeated over time until they become great changes multiplied by many, that I think is the way forward. And so, I think that there are a lot of things that we can look at, a lot of things that we can blame, but that we have to look inside ourselves. This is why I'm talking about, what are we as individuals working on, right? When I'm thinking about, is this a good use of my time? I'm thinking about, I've never done anything that is as good, as just purely good, as putting a big fluffy cat in the arms of a severely affected child, right? Like, I have never done anything like that. I once brought a bunny to an old woman. That's the closest I ever got, right? But that, to me, is the bar, right? The bar is not, well, Google IPO'd for $2 billion. That's not the bar to me, right? The bar to me is not 1 million users. The bar to me is it that good? And if it's not that good, then why isn't it that good? And that's what I'm striving for with the stuff that I do. I think that, we, as a group, as individuals in this group, I think that we have a lot of power, right? I've said this before, I'll say this again. The world is rich people on top, everybody else, and a thin layer of us in the middle. The ones who do the work, the ones who build everything, right? They don't survive unless we enable that future for them. And so fundamentally, we have all the power. Right? You think that the people with the money have the power, they only have that power because we all agree that that's power. But as soon as we all agree that that money is not worth anything, then they no longer have any power. The ones who actually build the thing, the ones who stand at the gears holding their wooden shoe, deciding what to do, those are the ones with the real power. And that's us.
That's really a matter of semantics, I think. Because if you look back in history and whatever culture you take, there's always certain people in power, and there's always certain people who sort of benefit from that power and enabling it and maintaining, helping maintain it, and there's people without power. That is not going to change anytime soon because it's an essential part, I think, of our own nature to do that. It comes with being a social animal and the social structures that we have inside ourselves. So I don't think that there's really all that much that you can do about it. I also don't think that it's evil, or that you can place any sort of label like that onto it, really. Because when you opened with that question and you said, okay, what is evil, then it made me think about that quote from the meddle series, where somebody says, there is no evil, the universe is indifferent. And to me that's very plausible. But I guess if you have like a stronger desire or wish or feeling with it, then it might not be satisfying to hear something like that. So that makes it very personal. That's why I was asking, what is the underlying wish? Because it is a religious thing in principle to think about good and evil,
yeah,
and then apply it to large groups of people as a whole. And so maybe that's a personal desire that you have.
I think that it's a pretty common thing for us when we're trying to justify our actions, which we're really good at, is to look at nature, say nature's horrifying, therefore we're also horrifying. I mean, social Darwinism, right? Like that disaster was based on that idea that, that the universe isn't different. The universe isn't different. But, this question was posed, right? There was an answer. The answer came from, mysteriously, Adam Smith, the same person who wrote The Wealth of Nations. His first book was about ethics. And, the question was posed, if there's no God to provide for ethics, then where do ethics come from? And if there was no divine power that sort of, had its thumb over all of us, then why would any of us ever do good and not just evil? And the answer is because we are born with empathy. Most of us, anyway. Actually, it's not true. We're not born with empathy, but we learn it from our parents or from the people around us. I mean, we as a species are capable of empathy, and that's what makes us different. That's what makes us pull our punches with each other. That's what makes us help each other. The reason why I feel emotions when I see, pictures of children that I'll never meet is because of empathy. It's because of something inside me, right? And I think it's the same thing. I think that some of us, not all of us, but some of us, feel this thing that we would call the call to serve. Right? Whether you think of that as humanity, as I think most of us do, or you think of that as the entirety of the system, as I do, it's the same basic thing. It is an internal. It's not even selfish, right? It's not cruel for a cat to do its instincts. It's not selfish for humans to feel the way that they feel, right? We are in the bodies that we have. We have the chemicals going through us that we have going through us. We feel what we feel. Some of us feel like we should be helping out somehow. You know, earlier today, all the chairs were on the other side of the room. And I realized that we were going to be on this screen. And so I started moving the chairs to the other side of the room. And like everybody started helping, right? They didn't have to. But it's just something that you feel. It's just a compulsion, like the compulsion to eat, like the compulsion to breathe. You just feel the need to serve. But at the same time, you hear the voices inside yourself and out on the internet of people saying, man, stop being a narcissist and just go have a good time. Like, stop trying to help everybody.
I was into documentary photography a couple of years ago. And I definitely don't want to say that you should not be doing good. I'm just, for myself, I'm pretty convinced that the universe really doesn't care about me doing good or not. When you do documentary photography, you come across a lot of very bad situations, and a lot of people have a feeling, okay, so I'm exposing this problem to the world, and that makes it a good thing. For me, that wore off after a couple of years. But what was really interesting is if you strip away like the bigger picture and you just focus on one person that you're talking to and you're photographing or interviewing, then there is really where you can do good or evil. Because some of the people I spoke to and interacted with had basically nobody who was ever interested in them and came to them to hear their story. Now, the fact that they could tell it to me was giving them a good feeling. But those things are really in very small moments, and they don't last, they're not tangible. So, to me, that's really all that it's about. It's about, okay, is what you are doing, is what I'm doing, does it make anybody else feel better? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think, okay, then it's valuable to do that. And if the answer is no, then maybe you have your own reasons to do it. But then it's not adding to any other people's lives. And so that's really how I perceived it in worked in Africa, in prisons in Latin America, some pretty far off places. But just talking to people and you know, just to that was a good thing.
I think that's totally true, and it's funny because at first it sounds like we disagree, but then the more you explain it, it sounds like we completely agree, right? The universe doesn't care.
It's not about mankind. It's just about a connection between two people.
No, that's right. I mean, a connection between two people or 200 people. I mean, this is why we have the internet, right? And this is the whole point is that we only define ourselves by each other, right? Like we're part of all fingers on the same hand, as I like to say. And we make it easier for ourselves and better for ourselves if we're good to each other most of the time. And like you said, it's just as simple as just finding somebody who's never had someone listen to them and just let them tell their story and just watch that smile come across their face like those kids. That's the kind of beauty that we get to enjoy, unique in our corner of nature, for all our capacity to do evil.
But you're doing it for yourself, I think.
I mean, I think that it doesn't matter, right? Like, I usually, when I have something in my mind that is unselfish, I have to find a way to bring it back to being selfish, because there is a very large subset of the population that absolutely will not believe anything unless it comes down to the same basic fundamental explainers, which is to say sex, money, power, right? And unless one of those things. This is why, by the way, Appsterdam was so confusing to everybody. Because everybody, is like, okay, well, what's your secret plan to make a bunch of money? And it's like, we don't have a secret plan to make a bunch of money, and people just couldn't believe it.
Well, isn't it the urge to survive? you want to live, you want to have some quality in life. I think 2 years ago I almost died because I'm really ill. And the only thing I wanted was survive. And if you told me to eat a sandwich with shit, I would do it.
Yeah.
I would do everything to survive.
Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
And that's really a strength from us humans.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the way life works. We want to survive, we want to have a good life.
Yeah.
And this may be the goal. How do you say, I want to help other people because I'm feeling well about it. That's a thing I believe in, but I don't believe in people that are doing things only for other people. I hope it's true, but I don't believe it because we're selfish.
Can I respond? I basically have 2 thoughts when you say that.
Yeah.
And that is whether you do it for yourself or for somebody else might not be so important. Because if it's good for that other person, then no problem. Whether you do it for yourself, okay, fine with me. The other thing is interesting, your thoughts on survival, because as Mike was saying, okay, we have empathy. But I think that a lot of problems that we see around us really come down to empathy being overruled by the will to survive.
Yeah.
And I saw that quite from up close in Africa, where people live on less than $1 per day. There's very little empathy there, and just anything that happens in the street can spark up to like a very violent interaction between people. So you were saying the same thing. The only thing I wanted was to survive.
Yeah.
I think though. I think that's really true, right? And you gotta understand, right? When you're staring down the barrel of a gun, you're not the same person as when you're, handing somebody a cat. Right? Like anyone who's almost died, anyone who's been through that experience, or for that matter, anyone who's taken enough mushrooms knows the feeling, right? That you're not going to wake up the next day. And yeah, everything is totally different. But that's not the experience that most of us have most of the time. And 98% of the time, we're not in any danger of not surviving, but we walk around acting as if we are and justifying to ourselves all of the nasty shit that we do to each other. And, my big concern is that, especially when we think about the fact that, if you're about to die, then you'll do anything, literally anything, to survive. It leads us to very dark places as a society, and because of what we're doing, the technologists, because of the automation that we're building, the stuff that we talked about 2 weeks ago, the system can no longer be based on that because we just have more people than we have need for people. Yeah.
Do I basically agree that human needs some kind of social structure, and that when you're in risk of not surviving, everything else stops being important. It's also true that as the culture itself has pretty much fixed this problem for us, and it's what makes it possible to be less lethal animals, is because we can keep ourselves in a state in which empathy works. If you take a look at what's improving over time, not at our historical record in the last millions of years, but just in the last 200 years, you see that 200 years was legal to own some persons. Nowadays it's not legal. There are some problems there. We're still working on it, but slavery is probably that we've decided something that we have decided as a country that is not good. 100 years ago in Italy they introduced the concept that every male person could vote, and 50 years ago they introduced something already that everyone could actually vote. This is stuff which is just happening in the last 100 years. 2 years ago almost people were more discriminated than they are today. This is getting better over time, and at a rate which has never happened in Italy. So I think that there is room for improvement. I think that we should see the derivative of what we do, not really the average we do over time, because that sucks.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought, and kind of one to take us home. You know, I mean, this is, I think, a point that I've been trying to make, not just today, but these past few days, and I think that, you know, everything that we've said here pretty much agrees with this, right? Like, it's about you, it's about small actions, it's about now, right? Everything that's gotten better in the world has gotten better because people have taken a little responsibility, gave enough of a shit, and did a little something for somebody else, maybe for their own selfish reasons, but so be it. We decide the kind of world that we are going to build when we decide what we're going to build every day. That's why we're important as a group.
But what worries me a little bit about our current time frame is that it's a little bit off topic, but when you say, you know, small steps, etc., I think we currently live in a very racist society, but everybody seems to accept that without any discussion or issues, and it's really fed by fear. Like the stuff happened that happened in Paris, and that's something that's worrying me really. What should we do about that?
Yeah, the cycle of vengeance.
How can you change that? But
even then, right? Like vengeance, you know, vengeance is a personal decision, and grace is a personal decision, and it feels silly to try to relate the two things, right? To try to relate some kind of like serious, nasty violence. But it's true though. It's just the smallest thing, you know? It's just when somebody, when you're really just, you know, like, you just want to tell someone to fuck off. And they deserve to be told to fuck off. And you don't tell them to fuck off, right? That's grace, right? Just giving a little bit better than they have, because the opposite of that is vengeance, which is, you know, taking every perceived slight and escalating it. And one of those actions is escalatory, and one of those actions is de-escalatory. And, you know, some escalations are bigger than others, but it's all the same decision. It's all the decision that we make to act vengefully or to act gracefully, to escalate or to de-escalate. But we are out of time, so that means that we'll have to carry on this conversation tonight at Cafe Bucks. I want to thank you all for joining me, for braving this weather, for participating in my little experiment here.